Hello there, welcome to another lesson. In this lesson we are looking at Sus4 chords, or suspended fourth chords, and it's a little bit beyond the scope of this beginner's course for me to talk about the exact music theory type reasons why they are called that. Suffice to say, they do have quite an up in the air, unresolved and moody character to them. They're pretty easy to play, and they're also quite easy to get into your playing. You can use them in conjunction with chords that you already know to add a little bit of colour and flavour to your playing. So let's take a look at three of them now. This chord is very similar to the D chord, except we're going to be putting our little finger down at the 3rd fret on the 1st string for that suspended sound. Let's just check the strings separately. 4 clear notes, and there we go. Should be fairly easy to get this chord if you can already play a D chord. It's also probably worth holding down that note at the 2nd finger on the 1st string like you would in a D chord, even though you're not using that note in the Sus4 chord, just because very often you're going to follow the D Sus4 with a regular D chord. To play the A Sus4 chord, we can just take our regular A and move our 3rd finger 1 fret higher, so it's now playing at the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. You might just want to adjust your other fingers slightly as well, so we get nice and close to the frets and there's no chance of any buzzes. Then we're going to test the strings one at a time. Should have 5 clear notes and strum the chord. Finally, we come on to the E Sus4 chord. If you just hold down your normal E chord, then tuck in your little finger at the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, you'll have E Sus4. 6 clear notes and strum. Just need to watch out that your little finger isn't leaning over too much and blocking the 2nd string. Just try and get up on the tips of that finger. There is an alternative fingering of this chord you can try if you like, which would be to play it like this, kind of like an A chord but with everything moved up 1 string towards the ceiling. Exactly the same sound. Don't really recommend this way of doing it, just because E Sus4 is often followed by the E chord, and it makes sense to do it this way, and then all you have to do to get to an E chord is to take off your little finger like that. You're going to want to have a good mess around with these Sus4 chords. A good starting point would be to play the Sus4 chord and then follow it by its respective major chord. For instance, you could play a bar of D Sus4 followed by a bar of D. That would sound like this. Use any strumming pattern that you like. Do exactly the same thing with A Sus4 to A. That would sound like this. Or E Sus4 to E. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that there is an alternative fingering for the A Sus4. Instead of playing the 3rd fret on the 2nd string with your 3rd finger, you could always just put down your little finger to play that note. And I suppose that makes it slightly easier when changing back and forth to the A chord, in that you just have to put down or lift off your little finger. Personally, I find that a bit awkward and prefer to use the 3rd finger, but you might want to have a play around with that alternative way of doing it as well. Now, another thing you could try with these Sus chords is to throw them in to some of the songs that we've already looked at. And often it's going to sound really good, particularly if you've got a bar or two on the same chord. You can try and throw in the Sus chord and it will add a bit of extra colour and flavour. Won't always work, but more often than not it will. Let me give you an example. We looked at the Wilco song California Stars, and that went G for 2 bars. Then we had 2 bars of D. What about if we went D sus4 on the second bar? And we go to C, and back to G. So just on the second bar, if I go around again, the second bar of D, I'm going to throw in a D sus4. Here we go. And I think that works really well. It just adds a little bit of interest and extra flavour at that point in the song. So have a play around with that. You'll find that that works in lots of songs. You can just throw in a sus4 chord, sometimes for a whole bar like that, sometimes just for a beat or half a beat, and it works really well. Anyway, I think that's it for this lesson. Good luck practicing this stuff, and I'll see you for another lesson very soon.